Okay, next is the 30th gate and the 29th gate. I love the 30th gate. I think it's one of the best jokes in the body graph. And it's a joke only if you're as individual as I am, because you could laugh at the collective. Right? You know, when you look at the logical side of the body graph, logic is wonderful. You know, logic says if you do this, this, and that, you get that. Right? And in order to prove it, they do it again and again. You know, 1 and 1 equals 2. 1 and 1 equals 2. 1 and 1 equals 2, and everybody's happy. So from then on, nobody has to worry about it. You know, it's there. If I do this and that, I get that. And then you go over to its mirror on the other side. It's like the body graph is kind of like this, you know, this butterfly that opens up. And you go over to the other side, to the symmetry on the other side, and of course you get to the whole emotional system, and you get to the abstract stream on the emotional side. And when you get to the abstract theme on the emotional side, it all starts out okay. You know? Starts out with the 41st gate saying, let's have an experience. You know? Right. And the 30th gate comes along, clinging fire. When the precession of the equinox reaches the 30th gate, we'll actually be into the age of Aquarius. But anyway, 30th gate, the clinging fire. And the clinging fire is an incredible thing because this is the gate of desire, yes, but more than that, it's the gate of the fates. Oh, and I love it. You know? So the abstract person says, if I do this, that, and that, I get there, right? And the fates say, if you do this, that's it. Because you won't even get to that in order to get to that, because something's going to get in the way, period. Because the fates always get in the way. And if it wasn't for the fates getting in the way, we would have a boring experiential line. The fates get in the way, they mix it all up all the time. So if you come into the world and you have a 30th gate, guess what you see? Nothing works properly. You know? You get to see that there's always the hand of God or there's something that's going to get in the way. Many years, the famous American comedian Lenny Bruce, who was famous for having a foul mouth more than anything else, he made a cartoon, and it opens up with Bambi, you know, the deer, the Walt Disney deer. It opens up with Bambi, and it's this deeply prosaic scene, and it's da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, it's one of these other things. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this giant dinosaur foot, okay? And just, boom! And whenever I think of the 30th gate, I think of that cartoon, you know? Out of nowhere, peaceful, pleasant, thump, over. And so that's what you get to see when you have the 30th gate. Now, it isn't necessarily nice, you know. I mean, let's not put any conditions on the seeing, but you also have to see how interesting it is. And by the way, for all of you, I mean, you may not know this, but it's something that's a lot of fun to do. It's also very useful. Each of the lines of the 30th gate represent the way in which your personality as a spirit is intended to deal with phenomena in life. Interesting thought. So if you look at your profile, personality profile, whatever that line happens to be, look at the line in the 30th gate, the same line. So for example, I've got a 5th line personality sun, and the 5th line of the 30th gate is irony. And truly, that's my theme, you know? It's all ironic to me, always has been, always will be. It's hilarious that way. But nonetheless, if you look at the 30th gate, those 6 lines are really magic because if you see them in genetic continuity relative to your profile, what they're basically saying to you is what to do when your plans fall apart. When my plans fall apart, I treat it ironically, you know? I see the irony when it doesn't work. You know, I see the irony when it does, so, you know, whatever the case may be. So it's something to understand that when the giant foot comes from out of the sky, everybody has a certain way of dealing with that comes out of the 30th gate. So if you've got the 30th gate as one of your nodes, you know, personality node, you really have a very interesting perspective in this life. In other words, you're somebody who is, you know, when somebody says to you, have you heard about chaos theory? You say, yes, I see it all the time. I am chaos theory. The world is chaos theory. It's not even a theory, you know? I see it. It's all chaos. And the other person's saying, no, it's very organized. No, it's not. Are we looking at the same thing? Yeah. Okay, on the other side of the 30th gate is the 29th gate. And it's a very funny thing for me, this polarity. I love this polarity. 29th gate, the abysmal. Eh? What a wonderful name, eh? Don't you love to have a name like that? The abysmal. Anyway, deep hole, right? I mean, deep hole. And the abysmal is the gate of making commitments. It's the great gate of saying yes to experience. Yes to experience. Yeah? So think about what it means when you have the 29th gate as a node. It's not like you're running around going yes to everything, though it's part of it because, it's in you. But it's you seeing that people are always ready to jump into things. Always. You see that everybody is always ready to say yes. Now that's great if you're a salesperson. Nice to have a node like that. I can see they want to say yes. Good, But it's in them. That's what they get to see. When somebody else says, oh, I only see the negative, whatever the case may be. No, I see that they're ready. They would commit. They're ready for an experience. I see that. I look out in the world and I see they're ready for experience, but they get fucked up by the fates. Yeah, that's what I see. And that's what I'm here to see. Which means that I can help people, who make commitments and get fucked up. I can help them. I can tell them, look, this is what's going to happen to you. I can see it. You better be careful about your commitments. You better be careful. This is about seeing. And when you see correctly, what comes out of your seeing is the fulfillment of your purpose. You get to live out the right being because it's guided by the way you see. It doesn't mean that you're not here to take in how everyone else sees. We are. I mean, when mind is no longer an inner authority, when mind is an outer authority, which is what it's here for, it's fascinating, to be able to share seeing with the other. And instead of saying what I see is better than what you see, we begin to see that everything that we look at is much more complex than we ever imagined. And not only that is it much more complex, but the moment that you see it in that way, it strips you of judgment. And it strips you of morality. It takes all that away. And it's one of the most important things to grasp. You see, everything about being in a duality means that everything is based on comparison. It's comparison. You wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, do you look better today than you did yesterday? It's all comparison. It's endless comparison. Everything about the duality is comparison. So, the moment that you come and say, I see it this way, most human beings are nervous, let's say, about being too strong and stating, I see it this way. There's this incredible resistance, fear that's in there. Because we're so uncomfortable in the conditioning. You're supposed to see things the way others see them. You're supposed to agree that we all see it this way. We're funny creatures, I tell you. When you come to Mercury, Mercury is the planet that is closest to the sun, and Mercury by tradition is a communicator.